In his general intention for the month of February, Pope Benedict asks us to join him in praying for the intellectuals and scholars of the world, that by sincerely searching for the truth, they may come to know the one true God. Unfortunately, we live at a time when many people think that to be a person of faith, a believer, you have to be unintelligent. For centuries now, there's developed a very suspicious and doubting approach to knowledge. This approach basically claims that only what can be scientifically proven is real. As a result, God and religion are viewed as unreal, as purely emotional, and even as anti-intellectual. And yet science itself arose in a religious context. If you honestly look at the history of science over the past 5 centuries, believers, including many priests and religious, were scientists. In fact, what is known today as the Big Bang theory of the expanding universe, which was first proposed in 1927, was initially rejected by the great physicist Albert Einstein, and then accepted by him. This theory was proposed by a Belgian priest and professor of physics and astronomy at the Catholic University of Louvain, Father Georges Lemaitre. And even before the age of science, during what are commonly called the Dark Ages, it was Benedictine monks who kept the intellectual tradition alive in their monasteries and laboriously copied manuscripts, ensuring that learning would survive. Religious people are not automatically irrational or anti-intellectual. They are humble enough, though, to admit that they do not know everything about the human person, the planet Earth, and the universe. And they are open to the probability that behind the human person, our world, and the entire universe, there is a creator whom people generally call God. And they are honest enough to admit that a relativistic approach to reality, one that claims there is no right or wrong, there is no truth or falsehood, there are no absolutes, this is basically irrational. Why? Well, think for a moment about something that many people today are apt to say. There is no right or wrong. It all depends on how you were raised, what your culture is. This statement begs the question, well, how do you know just what you said is right? Or take another common statement. There is no truth. You have your truth and I have mine. To this we can ask, how do you know that's true? And the declaration, there are no absolutes, is an absolute statement if I've ever heard one. Without truth, without absolutes, without an innate sense of right or wrong, we would have no standards by which to judge scientific experiments or human behavior. If there are no absolutes, no truth, no right and wrong, then anything goes when it comes to human behavior. Might makes right, and it's simply the survival of the fittest, and there's nothing wrong with genocide, with what happened at Auschwitz or Rwanda. In all honesty, we must admit that there is truth, and the goal of both reason and faith is to find the truth about the human person and the world, and their origins and meaning. Pope John Paul II wrote an encyclical letter about this in 1998 and called it Fides et Ratio, on the relationship between faith and reason. He said that faith and reason are not opposed to one another. They're not enemies. In fact, as he put it in the very first words of his encyclical, faith and reason are like 2 wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth. Then he goes on, and God has placed in the human heart a desire to know the truth, in a word, to know himself, so that by knowing and loving God, men and women may also come to the fullness of truth about themselves. Being an intellectual and a scholar himself, Pope Benedict follows in this great tradition of Pope John Paul and asks us to pray with him this month for scholars, that they may be sincere and not intellectually dishonest, that they may seek the truth, and in this search for answers regarding the nature and origin of the universe and the nature and origin of the human species, that they will be led to consider the ultimate questions about the meaning of life, and that these questions may lead them to the one true God, the Creator and ground of all truth.